It's Pride Month, and technically all of my videos are a little queer by virtue of me being in them and also me loving to read a lot of queer books. But I still wanted to do some kind of dedicated video, so today we are gonna rank all the queer books I have ever read from worst to best. So I have made a handy little list of all the queer books I have ever read, and I managed to rank them. I hope. I mean, there could be like some disparity in there, but I don't care. And we're gonna start with the worst of the worst and get to the best of the best. This will probably be very long because I do read a lot of these books. Saying that, I have to say that I only counted if there was a queer main character or queerness was a large part of the main story. I didn't count any of the books that had like secondary stories or like just minor characters in there, because then I would have to have even more books on here, and we're already talking like about 40 something books, I think, and that would just be way too much. So yeah, that's gonna be the ranking. And I mean, 4 stars and up, you're probably gonna get some very good recommendations out of this. So if you just want the recommendations, then you could jump to these timestamps. I'm gonna do those in the description. And with that out of the way, let's start with this ranking. Starting with the 1-star range, these are obviously the worst queer books I have ever read. There's, thank God, only 3 of them, but I would recommend these to no one. And the first book, the absolutely worst queer book ever read, is also the worst book I have ever read, period. Not just queer books. And that is Twins by Dear Kirby White. I'm not gonna get too much into it because I did an entire video on this book, but this is harmful and terrible, and absolutely no one should have to read it, as I did for school. So please don't pick this up. Please don't pick anything up from this author because I hate him to his guts, and the book is terrible. Next one, still a 1-star, but definitely less terrible, is Nick the Drunkard by Chris Raw and Alexander. I read this year, and this is absolutely awful, and I would also recommend it to nobody. I once pitched this as the worst straight man you can imagine, but just make him gay. This is absolutely terrible. It has no plot, and it also doesn't really see itself as having a plot. It states that in the introduction, but it's still terrible because I can enjoy a book for purely being smut. You're gonna see that at the rest of this list. But this book literally has some of the worst smut I have ever read. It is a terrible exploration of kink. There's way too many water sports scenes, and I get that that is somebody's thing. It isn't mine, but I also think that even people who would enjoy water sports wouldn't really enjoy the way that it is portrayed in here. It is really queer-phobic for a book about a gay man, but like I said, it's kind of just a straight guy that it just happens to be gay and just is like so demeaning in every way you could imagine. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And yeah, don't pick it up, please. The last book in the 1-star range, still terrible, but like, oh my god, you have to imagine how terrible the other books too were. For this to just be in the third last spot is Yarichin Bitch Club Volume 1 by Tanaka Ogaretsu. So I pick up a lot of BL, but this one I really got where all the BL haters are coming from. This is yaoi in its worst, okay? This is so objectifying and fetishizing of gay men, and in this book, especially gay boys in high school age. It's just such an unrealistically fetishizing depiction of queer people, and I absolutely couldn't stand it. Yeah, 1 star, and don't pick it up. Getting into the books that I still wouldn't recommend, but definitely are a lot better than the last 3 with the 2-star range. The first book there, which is the worst book of that, is Deep House by Jeremy Atherton Lynn. If you want a Wikipedia article about gay marriage that also just seems to have a lot of the author's own story in there, while the author's own story sadly is not like interesting at all and has some really gross sex scenes, then you should pick up this book. If you just want to learn about queer marriage, then please search out any article or other book on this topic. But this book had like really dry history sections on that topic of marriage equality and everything, which I found kind of interesting, but it also could have been brought over in a way more entertaining way. And then there's the author's own love story that was really just like not that good at all. So I'm sad that I had to like rate someone's own experiences so terrible. But I really didn't like this. It's the worst book in the 2-star range. Don't pick it up, please. Next, I still didn't like this. This is When Haru Was Here by Dustin Tao. I read this very recently, and this is a YA romance about this guy who's, can I say that? Well, I don't know, that would be kind of spoilery, but definitely he imagines kind of like a ghost boyfriend type thing, And that's not a spoiler. I think that's definitely in the synopsis. The other thing I wanted to say was a spoiler, but like, who cares? And it was just so juvenile. And I'm sorry, but this guy is my age, okay? So I don't know if I should technically be reading YA or if I'm just a dad mature, which that's a phrasing I hate. So I'm not even saying that, but like, this felt so immature, and I'm sorry, like, this guy was so delusional. I'd suggest therapy, okay? I'd really suggest therapy. I know you like your weird ghost boyfriend, and even like the actual boyfriend that the ghost boyfriend was based on was so weird, and that, like, they literally ran into each other at a crossing, and then just were like, oh, we're in love now. And like, what? That's not a realistic portrayal of romance at all. Like, I get kind of that there probably will be some people that fall in love at first glance, but like, nah. This book was not good at all, and I'm sorry that I'm doing a terrible job of explaining, but I'm not even going to get into a lot of these books because we had like 40 something of them, and I'm just going to say my grievances, and I'm sorry for that, but like, yeah, didn't like it. Next up, this is one of a lot of BL romance books on this list that I just didn't really connect with, but you're going to see a lot of better in the latest sections of this video. But the first one, the one I disliked most except for the origin, was More Than Just One Night by Iroha Uzui. I have a like short review of this book up, so if you want to check out my thoughts on this, then watch that video. But in short, I just didn't connect with the romance. These characters were bland beyond belief, the smut wasn't great, and their conflict was unbelievably stupid, so I didn't like it. 2 stars. Then we're gonna get into a series that I'm still actively continuing, even though I don't seem to like it that much, and that's In These Words Volume 1 by Toga Q and Kikichineko. Oh, no. I don't like dark romance, and this one I wouldn't even really classify as a romance at all, but it is more of like a dark thriller with some smut elements that are very forced. I don't like it. No. I like one book in the series, and that's why I'm still continuing, but this main series, not for me, sadly. Then one of the other weirdest and most obscure books on this list, Feindesland Band 3 Bonus Stories, which roughly translates to Enemy Territory Part 3 Bonus Stories. Didn't like it. Obviously, I haven't read the other 2 books. This was just one I really randomly came into possession of and just read it because it was like 90 pages, and it wasn't good. It is an Omegaverse story in the most weird of ways, and then it doesn't even really like have an actual ending because the story is just like cut off, and it was not for me. Maybe it's for you if you read the rest of the series, but I couldn't really click with it. 2 stars. Then we have one of my many disappointments I brought home from my London trip in 2024, and that is This Skin Was Once Mine by Eric LaRocca. I understand that I probably just didn't click with these, and I get it for being like some more experimental horror that maybe other people could enjoy, but for me, every story was just like more fucked up than the last, and I just didn't get the reasoning or intent or commentary behind it really, so I unfortunately really didn't click with it. Then another BL that I really didn't care for, it is Afterglow by Wagimo Kobogase. That book was fine. I liked the art style, but the romance was bland, and what really killed it for me was the inclusion of another water sports scene at the end of it that like technically wasn't even like to do with a kink, but just like accidentally happened, and I was like, no, you really didn't have to include that. And with the book already mediocre, I then ended up rating 2 stars. And the last book I gave 2 stars in this range is Kneel Down and Ask for Love by No Yamada. This one drew my ire for technically being Omegaverse, but pretending that it was above Omegaverse and having to make up its own rules that were not really its own rules at all, but just Omegaverse rules repackaged under a different name. Also, I thought it was kind of weird how these high schoolers were working at adult clubs. And so, no, that sadly was not for me, even though it had a pretty sweet ending. Getting into the 3-star range, these are books I would probably comfortably recommend to you, but just were not really the perfect book I would imagine. Starting with My Summer of You, Volume 1, The Summer of You by Nagisa Furuya. This one mainly sits in the 3-star range for just being mediocre as hell, when everyone I heard talking about this hyped it up as one of the best gay romances they have ever seen. So I'm sorry, but it wasn't. It was really mediocre. I didn't care for the leads. The entire, I think my copy called it like a cinematic summer type thing, was not really an element of the book at all. I don't think their love of movies really became a part of their personalities in the way that I thought it would, and the romance overall just didn't do it for me, so it's 3 stars. I won't continue in the series. Getting into a classic that people love, this is Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I read this last year, and I'm sorry, but I just don't really get the hype around it. I get that this is one of the first vampire stories that predated even Dracula, and the writing is technically good, even though I have read way more beautifully written books from that time period, and overall the story is just really not that great. I mean, I expected everything that it did, which is probably just because I have been in contact with so much more vampire media than the people would have been when this came out. And obviously it's revolutionary in that it is definitely lesbians. Like, it's technically subtext, but like you can definitely see it. But for me, it just was not that great. I'm sorry. It felt not that amazing to me. I don't care. Next up, another BL one. This is Let's Be a Family by Tomo Kurohashi. Nah, I really didn't care for this one. Again, the chemistry between the leads wasn't there, and the entire setup just felt really weird to me in how this woman, like, got a baby, but then just dropped it off at her friend's house to go back to being a journalist in some foreign country. Like, I'm sorry, it's good that this family of the two men was like good for the kid and they actually like resonated with each other, but I just thought it way too irresponsible for this woman to just throw her child away like that. Like, that already was such a huge stepping stone that I really didn't agree with, so that the rest of the story like didn't really win me over either, with like the actual romance of the story also not being that great. And I'm like, no, sadly not for me. Then this is technically one short story in a larger collection I read, but this is Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx, and I also gave this 3 stars because I didn't really care for it. I know that the movie is beloved and I haven't seen that one, but the actual story is just there. Like, it does nothing for me. There is no chemistry between these two people. We never really get a sense of how much they actually mean to each other, so that the loss like never really sets in for me how it did technically to the characters. So I just didn't feel for them. The romance is not there. The chemistry is not there. The sense of loss is not there. The sense of connection is not there. I just didn't connect with it. I'm sorry. I didn't. Another one that people love, but I just didn't, is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. No, I thought it was also really mediocre. I did like the chemistry between our two protagonists in this one, but I think like all of the other elements of this book just weren't that great. I imagined it being a lot more space talk for how much the story is focused on these two female astronauts, but actually it wasn't even really that much focus of the story. I really didn't get that much of a sense how they were actually training there, or how the inner workings of NASA at that time actually functioned. Their relationship surprisingly also wasn't that big of a part of the story, and the most story we got was actually about this woman and the relationship with her niece. That was kind of like difficult because her sister, the mother of that child, is a very difficult person. And it was cute. It was just not what I expected from this story at all. I expected space lesbians, okay? And I didn't get that. Like, their relationship is cute and everything, but it was just way too little of that and way too little of the space stuff. And like, okay, I like the niece character, but it's just search your priorities and market the book better, okay? I didn't expect that. Next up, this one is technically a lot of gay subtext again, but I definitely saw it as such, and that is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I thought the sapphic subtext in this was crazy. Like, I immediately saw these two women and the friendship they were developing as like immediate like longing, and I really did like that. It's actually the best part of the story for me. The problem with this book is everything else. I mean, it's kind of a haunted house story that is a lot of like, is this an actual haunting, or is the woman just going crazy? Or maybe it's not an actual haunting and the woman is going crazy, but the house is making her crazy. So it's a lot of these like weird atmosphere, and it's really well written. And again, I like the chemistry between the two women, but the entire story as a whole just didn't do a lot for me. So 3 stars. Then we get into another part of the Indies Word series, that's Maybe Someday by Kiki Chineko and Toga Q. Ugh. This one has the same problem as the last one I talked about, in that it is not really a romance. And I'm not saying that every book on this list is a romance, by the way, but this series, especially with the first book I read, really gave the impression of a romance. So, oh my god, like, I don't really get the rest of the series, but this is like basically a crime thriller investigating a missing persons case that was probably like abducted by a mafia. And there is just a lot of, again, forced smut scenes in here that I just didn't care for. And when I found out at the end of the book that I did remember the name of the character, and that is the killer and assaulter from the main series, I was like, what? And now I'm kind of intrigued, but also like not, and I'm like a little bit disturbed, and like I made a whole video about it. You can watch it somewhere, but I like, no, not for me. 3 stars. Then we have Eine Liebesgeschichte voll Traurigkeit und Fehleinschätzungen by Jisei Ogawa. That one, sadly, is part of a series that I read another book from and absolutely loved. So I immediately picked it up once I found out that there was a series, because I originally didn't know. Like, the series is called Ghost Sun, and I don't think it has English translations, but like, who cares? And basically, I was really disappointed because I absolutely loved the stories, because it's a short story collection that focused on the couple from the other book I read. But then there's also like so many other stories in here, and like none of those were good. And even if they were, I would still be disappointed because none of those series seem to have been translated. So even if I wanted to check them out, I couldn't. But I don't wanna, so it's even worse for me. So yeah, that book ended up being 3 stars. And the last book I gave 3 stars, and probably the one in this section that I would recommend the most, is Bad Moon Arising by C. Al Mustafik. That one is just in here because it's very lowbrow, and I thought the conflict was a little forced, and these people, if they talked it out, would have a lot shorter of a story. And I know that miscommunication is a trope, and sometimes it works for me, it just didn't really here. But everything else that wasn't the miscommunication was kind of really cute. This is the book about werewolves. I love werewolves. I absolutely do love werewolves, okay? So I did like that. I did like the entire like pack that was set up, and yeah, I liked it, but if it had less miscommunication, I would definitely have liked it more. Getting into the 4-star range, these are the books I would definitely recommend to you. Like, from here on up, I would recommend every and any of these books to you. Like, I really love these. And starting with The Jesus Injection by Eric Andrews Katz. Okay, maybe I have to rescind my recommendation. This one is just on here because it was fun, okay? Because I expected absolutely nothing from this book, but it ended up being really, like, kind of okay. So for some reason I gave it 4 stars. I don't think I would on a reread, but like, it's here. And I mean, it's gay James Bond, and that's basically all I can say, and it's fun but not great, so do with that whatever you will. The next book is a manhwa called Dangerous Convenience Store. I only read the first volume, and it's by an artist called 945, I believe. Yeah, I don't want to continue in the series because I heard it gets into a lot of like bully romance territory, which is not something I would care for, but the first volume was okay, so I gave it 4 stars. It's just about this guy who works at this convenience store, and there's this mafia boss who comes in there, and yeah, basically they end up hooking up and maybe fall in love later. So yeah, it was good, but from what I heard about the rest of the series, I don't want to continue, so I don't have that strong of an attachment to the first book, but it was still okay. The next book on here is a classic that people love, but I just didn't connect that much with it. But that said, I still ended up giving it 4 stars, so it has done something for me, and that's Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. It's a book of its time, and there is some outdated depictions of especially like trans characters that I didn't really care for. That said, the writing is very beautiful, and for me to actually like not care that there is a lot of like French words used, which I usually can't stand that language, then the book really did something right, and the portrayal of this like doomed romance kind of really did something for me. But it, in the end, I think I expected a lot more and didn't get exactly what I wanted, but it's still a very great book, and I love the writing, so 4 stars. Then we get to Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. That is a book I nearly gave 5 stars back when I read it last year, but I have soured on a little, and now it's more like a 3.5, but like when I think about it, I still remember all of the like longing the two leads had for each other, and all the things that especially like the one lead that I can't remember the name of for the life of me, like had to go through, the skinny one that isn't like the one who writes stories, not the one who draws it. Though that guy, I'm feeling so much for him because I relate to so much of the stuff he went through. And again, like when an asexual character is in a story, I've kind of always end up loving him because like I relate to that so much. But like the romance of these two is very cute. I just really didn't like the ending, and it felt very YA, which I mean it is a YA book, but I heard that, oh my god, this is so brutal. Like this is the most brutal YA book you will ever read. Like you will not care if this is YA. Like it still felt very kind of YA to me. So don't listen to those people. It's still very YA, and like the entire like dark academia stuff that was technically in there felt a little played out and felt like it had not to be there. Like, nah. But like the romance is very good, and there's drawings. Like the drawings look so good. So yeah, a little bit of a recommendation with like some air quotes. What air quotes? I don't know what I wanted to say, but like it is good. It's just not amazing. Then a book I read very recently, which is Vergiss sein nicht by Hex. It's roughly translated to Forget Him Not, and it's a romance about this guy who dies in a motorcycle accident and then wakes up in the afterlife, and death has a crush on him. I got this at a con I went to with my best friend. You can learn more about that in a video I want to put here probably. And yeah, I really end up liking this book, surprisingly, because I don't really love romance in German, because that cringes me out. But yeah, it's really good, and I would recommend it. It has like the main guy is bi this time, which I don't often read. I mostly like read straight, like well, not straight, like straight up gay romance. Okay, and there's other representation in here that I don't want to spoil because it's kind of treated as a twist, but like not twist in a bad way, as like, oh my god, this weird kidnappers made this child trans in one of the worst books ever, which is, I'm blanking on the name right now, Hidden Pictures by Jason Reculok. Nothing but hatred for that guy, but like no, it's like it's just somebody didn't know and then finds out that kind of twist, so I don't want to spoil it, but like it's really good and I would recommend it. Then we have one of the BLs I actually like, which is You Are My Alpha by Arata Asane. I think, oh my god, I'm always blanking on that name, but like I really like this. It's another Omegaverse story, and I love my Omegaverse stories, okay? And I made a short about it, but it's just the story about these two guys at an alpha school, but one of them then actually ends up not being alpha, and like these two eventually fall in love. So there's a lot of like trouble with like, are people gonna find out? Are they not gonna find out? And I really liked it. So yeah, that one is good. Then we have The Summer Hikaru Died Volume 2. Volume 1 is higher up on this list, but I just didn't like Volume 2 that much. It's just less of the gut punch that Volume 1 was for me, but I would still recommend the series, even though I haven't read further than the second volume because I'm terrible with series. But yeah, please pick this up, it's amazing. Next up, Sacrifice to the Shark Clan by Sato Michi. This one was really good, especially because all the shark men were so hot, okay? And I really loved our two leads. They were so nice together. It just is not the perfect for me because the entire like dynamics of like these men being like with these other men, and they're like called like brides, or like they're like treated as like if they were women, and like actually like with the terminology and everything, but which would make sense in like a pure Omegaverse world where they're like, we're only like alpha men and omega men, but there's actual women also there. So like, are there relationships with these actual women? If not, why are there women? Like, it was a little confusing in that way, but like also I don't think you should think too much about this book and just like enjoy it. So it's not bad in that way. And again, there's hot shark men, and I love the chemistry between the characters. So it's great. Then we have Adopt a Vampire by AJ Sherwood, which I was kind of reluctant at first because that book really had kind of a little bit terrible writing at first, but I ended up really falling for the chemistry between our two characters. If you take a shot every time I say chemistry in this video, you're probably gonna die, so don't do that. But yeah, I really liked it. And also, this entire pack of werewolves was just all cute, okay? I absolutely love werewolves. I think I've made that clear. And like this entire pack, I wanted to hug them all because they're so sweet. And I love the familial dynamics there. And yeah, it was just a really sweet story. It ended up being that. It's not amazingly written. Again, I like it has a lot of like fan fiction energy, which I think a lot of the writing I pick up do. So I don't really care. But yeah, really liked it. Please pick it up. And then we get to something dark, okay? That is Captive by Jack Slane. I think it's actually another book with bi representation. Like, oh my god, I found another bi guy. There's not many of them. But yeah, I really like this. But you will have to go into this book, like, definitely, like, knowing that it's very dark, okay? Because there is a lot like forced smut in there, which is not my thing at all. But in this book, I kind of like got it because the story also was really gripping. It's one of the like most like story forward romance books on this entire list. And again, like, not even all the books in here are romances, but like this one is kinda, but it's also like more of like an epic fantasy tale. Not really epic, it's a fantasy tale, but like this war and like entire conflict going on, and with an ending that absolutely gut punched me to a degree that I still haven't picked up the second book, even though it is sitting on my TBR shelf. And so, yeah, it's good, but definitely like look up trigger warnings if they exist for this book, because holy shit. Then we have Someday I'll Fall For You Volume 1 by Tomo Kurohashi. This is the prequel to Let's Be a Family, and I like this more. The problems I had with the other book, with just like not being enough focus on the leads and the love story not being there, is definitely washed away in this, because it is just focused on these two people and there's not this plot with them having to raise this child in any way. And so we really get to understand a lot more of what attracts them to each other and how their relationship is kind of complicated, which in hindsight ended up making the other book better for me. I still don't like it as much, but like, just for that, I really like this book, and I definitely want to continue in the series, so that one's good. Then, oh my god, this 4-star section is really long. We have The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Sen Jo. One I also just read this year, and one I really loved. This one has more, like, representation along the entire queer spectrum, but it is not focused on that, which I kind of said was a criterion for ending up on this list, but who cares? I love this book, so it's gonna stay on here. But this is really good. It's a very like short fantasy novella, which with a really intriguing world that is kind of reminiscent of The Empress of Salt and Fortune, in that it doesn't really tell you that much, but enough for you to really get like an imagining, and you just have to imagine a lot of the world for yourself. And it's also like this band of traveling thieves, and you get a lot of like bickering and fighting, but in the most fun way, with a very weird but also like very fun female character in the form of that monk they eventually pick up. So yeah, I really love this book. Please pick it up. Then we get finally to the book in the In These Words series that I actually liked, which is New York Minute by Kiki Kitcheneko and Toga Q. Yeah, this is great. It's about this New York cop who has a new psychologist in like his office that works there, and yeah, they hit it off, and I just really love this. I love the dynamic of these two. There is technically a plot there, but I really didn't care. I just wanted to see more of those two being together. There's technically an age gap, and that's not my thing, but I didn't even care here because I just love these two so much. So yeah, that one's the good one in that series. Please pick that one up. And the last book in the 4-star range is There's a Monster in the Woods by Faye Quinn, which is absolutely amazing, okay? If you just want a cute romance between a guy that plants vegetables all day and a monster that is living in the woods next to his house, and with like amazing smut scenes. Faye Quinn is so good at writing smut scenes. Then please pick this up. Like, this book managed to make me enjoy a rimming scene, which is something I would usually recoil from, because like that's something I'm not into at all. Like, I'm not into like a lot of like stuff, like actually, like I don't even like reading about it. So for me to enjoy it in that book is crazy, and I loved it. So like, thank you, Faye Quinn. I really like this book. Next up, the 5 stars. These are my all-time favorite queer books. I would love for everybody to read these. Obviously, there's your own taste, so I don't know. Check it out for yourself if you want to read any of these, but I absolutely love these. And starting with the one I would probably recommend the least, which is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, because there's just so much to disclaim about this book, because it is like technically, with like the drama and everything and how vivid it is described and how much it makes you feel, in that way it is an amazing book. That said, the author has no idea how gay men act. There's a kind of really weird privilegedness of these characters that is never acknowledged, because there is no real time zone that this is set in, and for that to really like matter, these characters have to be ultra like privileged to like not really have like any struggles in like any time period, because if you have money you probably will never have struggles. So yeah, it's kind of in that way, and also it's a really weird portrayal of gay people, and it's kind of biphobic in the way that it just doesn't acknowledge that this one guy can be into women and men both at the same time. Like, it really struggles with that idea and like never even like brings it up actually. But the drama is so good and it really makes you feel things. Look up all the trigger warnings for this book, okay? But it's just it has a lot of asterisks with the recommendation, but for the things I made it feel, love it to death. So it's 5-star book for me. Next, we have Bored Gay Werewolf by Tony Santarella, which I really loved at the time, and I think I would still do today. I would urge you to pick this up if you just like kind of burnt out millennial or Gen Z humor with a guy that is also like really lazy and kind of in a crisis of masculinity, which I definitely can attest to because I've never actually ever been masculine at all. But it was fun reading about it. And it's not a romance, which I originally thought it was. And it's also not a horror book, which is what I thought it was after I thought it was a romance. And I didn't like the ending and what it set up. But everything before I thought was really funny, and I really like the characters. So yeah, that's a 5-star book for me. Then we have The Fallen Alpha by Makino Nakamura, which is a BL that the only thing you really have to know is that it's basically You Are My Alpha from what I described before. But like with the smut turned up to 1,000, you don't need to care about the story. Just these characters are so hot and I love that. Like, it's really not that often that like a pure smut book like gets a 5-star from me, but this one was so good. Like, it's about this alpha guy who goes back to like claim this one omega, but the omega actually turned into an alpha, and when they do it, like the first alpha ends up being bitten, and the other alpha, like his power is so strong that the original alpha like ends up getting turned into an omega and being submissive to the other one. And like horny 5 stars. Okay, that book is horny 5 stars, but I loved it. Then my favorite book of this year so far is also on here. It's The Gloaming by Kirsty Logan, which is just sad magical lesbians with mermaids, but not really mermaids, and a really atmospheric island. And it's very vibey, and even if you like don't get everything, you just like have to get a feel for the story, and then you will love it. I recommend you that. Like, it's so good. Then, Until I Meet My Husband by Ryosuke Nanosaki and Yoshitsuki Tsuki. I definitely will recommend the manga version because that's the one I read and I love that one. The art is beautiful. You will learn about marriage equality in Japan and how it's not like really existent at all, and how these people still manage to have kind of like this marital relationship, and it's really sad and but like also really beautiful, and I loved it. Then it's The Summer Hikaru Died Volume 1. I'm also like very sorry if like my voice sounds raspy. I don't know why it does today. I'm under time pressure even recording this video, but like that's not like an excuse. I don't know, but like let's talk about this book. It's so good, okay? It's so amazing. I absolutely loved it. Again, I've already talked about the second volume, but basically it's about this guy and his friend, and like his friend one day just vanishes and goes off into the mountain, but then when he reappears, he kind of has this unease about him. Something is really not right. And this other guy starts to question if something hasn't replaced his friend. And I was absolutely devastated because the reason that the one guy like actually ends up on the mountain and going there is so tragically romantic and nearly brought me to tears. Like, oh my god. And the way that even like the other version of the character on the mountain and like the weirdness there, that he is obsessed with this other guy, and like the obsession between these two is like, loved it. Amazing. Loved it, like really. Then we have Wie man der unendlichen Traurigkeit ein Ende bereitet by Chisei Ogawa, which is also like part of that Gosen series and like the one I talked about earlier. And this one is the book I absolutely give 5 stars. Like, I picked this up, not like this was one of the first BL books I picked up, and like I didn't really expect anything from it because I just gave The Fallen Alpha 5 stars and that was like pure smut. But this book had me emotionally invested, okay? These two guys, I would die for them. Like, their relationship is so great. And it's not like even that like unconventional of a story. It's really just about these two guys and their relationship. But I love that. And again, amazing. I don't think it has a translation, but if it ever gets an English translation, or if you're able to speak German or like Japanese, in which like it originally came out, please read it. It's so good. Then, this is The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nevo. I unfortunately haven't continued in the series, but this first book already was so great that I think like the entire series would be a recommendation for me. But I absolutely loved this. This is about this cleric who is a non-binary person that I absolutely love non-binary characters. And they like go to this retreat that like was once like an empress's kind of summer stay thing, but she was also like kind of banished there because her husband kind of didn't want her there, and they end up meeting like a servant that once worked for that empress, and then they get told a story about this empress. And there is I don't know if I want to spoil it, but like yeah, love this. It has queer inclusions again with like the non-binary character and then eventual romance that I really don't want to spoil, but it's great. Amazing. Like again, like I explained with the Order of Pure Moon reflected in water, the world building is crazy good in that it really like just gives you scraps, but these scraps are so vivid that you will have an entire world in your imagination. If you are into that kind of thing, I would recommend it so much. It's great and how it emphasizes the value of oral storytelling. Absolutely loved it. Amazing. Going from like this very high concept fantasy book and just another like straight up smut book, this is Hunt Me, I Crave the Chase by Faye Quinn. Love the characters so much. Okay, these are amazing. I love that werewolf guy. Absolutely love that werewolf guy. Like I love the connection these two have with each other, the way they kind of like this one guy has a lot of trauma and the werewolf helps him through that, but also like then the other guy kind of ends up saving the werewolf because the werewolf also has a problem, but they always like put each other first and like they're so there for each other. And like the smut is so good. Okay, there's not just an emotional connection, the smut is out of this world. Loved it. Faye Quinn, you did amazing. I love it. Okay. And then the next book, I think it's kind of a spoiler in which way it is queer. So if you haven't read it, I would strongly urge you to skip the section once I tell you what it is, because it is one of the best books ever in my opinion, and it is Dark Matter by Michelle Paver. Okay, so if you didn't click away, here's the tea. I absolutely love this book. It's an amazing ghost story. Absolutely amazing. And the way it is queer is basically like this guy and the way he eventually like spirals with like, is it a ghost story or is it just his mind? It's another one of those things, but this time it actually worked, is because he is remote and alone in this like hut, and basically he has to do like some scientist things, but the other scientists that were there with him all have to leave, and he longs for companionship and especially like friendship with this other guy that eventually just turns out to be this like really obsessive need and longing. And I for the most part operated on like my intuition of him being queer, but then last year when the book came out with like a 15th anniversary reprint, I bought that one from my mother because I also wanted her to read it, and there was a new afterword in it. I immediately read it. I nearly sobbed, okay, because I just love this book so much, and Michelle Paver confirmed that this was her intention with the character, so I just feel so seen with that. I immediately clocked that, and like it's so good. It's so good. Please pick it up, okay? Even if you like know what I said right now, it's still good, even if it is spoiled for you. And like the story in itself, like even if you know about the queerness, like the story in itself has so much to offer. Please pick it up. And then my favorite book ever, and also my favorite queer book ever. Like it's funny that my worst book ever is also my worst queer book ever, and my favorite book ever is also my favorite queer book ever. This is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This gobsmacked me, okay? This nearly threw me off my feet. I absolutely loved it. I always pitched this like kind of cheekily as Twilight for gay people. It's so good. Like I have never read Twilight, but just it kind of gives me the vibes of like there's not like this person moving to a town that has like a bunch of reclusive rich vampires living in it, but like there's basically this guy living in the end of the lane, but then a family of very powerful and very like sweet werewolves moves in there next to them, and like oh my god, the found family is crazy. And technically there's some like things with this book. TJ Klune is a controversial author, and I would not really want to support him. That's why I bought this book used, and I would not actually ever read The House of the Cerulean Sea because I don't want to support him. But given that I am not monetarily supporting him, I still am so attached to the story that I still want to continue someday. And like, yeah, I'm just so in love with this, and I'm kind of conflicted because he is a controversial author, but like, ugh, this book is so good. Okay, this book is so good. And also, there's the thing that there is an age gap in here that people have a problem with, but I thought it was okay, because it is just like this mating bond thing that a lot of werewolf books have, and technically, it's not like that bad for me because they acknowledge it in the book and they never like do anything until they are both well of age. So I think it's okay, but if you have a problem with that, please look it up. Like, I wouldn't really urge anyone to read this. I just love it myself. With that said, that's every queer book I have ever read. Again, there's probably a lot more, but then it's probably just a subplot. And maybe there's something I forgot, I don't know. But anyway, this video was very long. Have you read any of these books? If you have any like recommendations based on the ones I liked in here, then I would be very glad to take them. There's obviously a lot of them on my TBR that I haven't read yet, but I definitely will because I just love to read these. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in another one. Bye, and happy Pride Month!